Johnny Walker invites you to walk with giants. Take an inspirational walk with some of the greatest striding men on earth.
Hi, this is Robert Carlyle. You're walking with me today in my old neck of the woods here in Glasgow. I hope you've got your thermals with you because it is freezing here today. It must be at least 25 below. This area played a huge part in my life, and what I want to do today is take you for a wee walk and tell you basically where I came from and where I went to. It's actually very unusual for me to speak about pretty much anything from my past, so what I'm going to talk to you about today is never been heard before, and I think it's important for me to do this for a number of reasons, but the biggest reason of all is my father, God bless him, he passed away 4 years ago. When he was gone, it suddenly occurred to me that no one else knew this story other than me. And if I was to suddenly get hit by a bus tomorrow, my children would have no idea about where I had come from, where my father had came from, where my grandparents had came from. So this seemed to me to be a worthwhile thing to do. The first thing you should know about me is when I was 3 years old, my mother left me and my father. And that was traumatic, obviously, for my father. My father suffered a nervous breakdown, in fact, at that time in his life. He had come from a stock standard working class background in Glasgow, but he's a wee shut and tie man. He worked very hard, my father. But when the marriage ended, he went on to a kind of spiral and took me off with him in what was quite an incredible journey. So the first 7 years of my life were spent in the East End of Glasgow. And the East End of Glasgow was a particularly hard and rough place to be. We had less than nothing, we were poorer than poor. So, as this wee story I'm telling you is all about walking, about my journey, we really began walking from the age of 3 or 4. We would walk for miles and miles looking for anything we could find. I'll tell you this story. I remember particularly, to show how hard this was, Brooke Bond tea packets used to have little stamps, and if you saved up enough of these on a little card, you could get a box of groceries. So we would spend literally months raking through dustbins trying to find tea packets that still had a stamp. Whenever we would be wandering and we would come upon a skip, my heart would kind of sink, because I knew my dad would find something in there to dust down and to sell on. And it didn't really matter what that was. My wee dad would get the wardrobe on his back, I would be helping him, and along we would go back to this absolute gutter that we lived in. Why were we so poor? Why was my dad not working? Well, I have to tell you, simply because he had to look after me. There was no option, there was no family. When my mother and father's marriage broke up, my father's family kind of rejected him. So he had no backup, he had nothing at all. And of course, the notion of the single parent family, even then, was very vague. So there was a certain element of distrust towards my father from social security type institutions and stuff that were continually trying to take me away. And my father would then move from address to address, basically to escape. I have to be honest, he survived through stealing a lot of the time, you know. He would nick stuff, he would sell it on, and that would keep us going for a week or two. It was living on your wits, you know, it was very much living on your wits. My father was brilliant at that. He did some things which are quite extraordinary, and this is maybe the first indication of any sense of acting in my life. What my dad used to do is he would take me to what was called the welfare, and he would say to me on the way, I'm going to make a bit of a scene here, I'm going to scream and shout a lot, I'm going to threaten to leave you, but don't worry son, I'll be coming back to get you. Now these institutions then were grim, I mean it was Dickensian almost, you know, and you would sit there and be humiliated basically, and at the end of the day you would get, again, a box of groceries. But trying to get that was like trying to scale the Eiger. So several times my dad would do that. He would take me and he'd say, look, we need this, we need money, we can't give you money, Mr. Carlyle. Okay, you take him. I remember seeing these people laugh, going, don't be ridiculous, what are you talking about, that's your son. Saying, well, it is my son, but I can't look after him anymore, it's up to you, bye, and he's off. And my dad was like a greyhound, right, out the door and away, and I would be sitting there watching this. And even though I know he's coming back, he's so convincing that I think he's away. At the time, it just seemed like everything was against us, you know, me and my dad against the world. That was all it was.